Hey guys, welcome to day 7 of our 12 days of FITMAS. So you've made it through a week and I'm so proud of you. Today you may not be happy with this. Some of you might, some of you might not. It is a rest day. Rest days are super important, and I know some people jumping into training kind of want to neglect them. They don't want to stop. It can throw you off. But I'm going to go over a few things on the importance of it and how you can also keep moving, but not necessarily, but still give your body that rest that it really needs. All right, so first things first, the benefits of a rest day are huge for your body and getting through your training program. Rest days are when your muscles have that time to repair themselves. So as you're going to the gym or working out at home, whatever it is, you're continuously breaking down those muscles as you're putting them through all these workouts, and they need time to build back up and recover. If you're not giving them that time, then you're not going to have strength increases, you're not going to have muscle growth, and which is ultimately what you're aiming for. And your body is going to be really worn down. This can lead to injury for sure. That's most likely what happens when you're overtraining and not doing rest days. And then, fatigue and just less strength and a lot of other things can happen. So that's sort of the muscle side of it. There's also the central nervous system side of it that can really get overtaxed when you're not taking rest days. And this is because it's controlling all these muscle contractions, and not giving your central nervous system a break can have a lot of negative impact on you as well. This might lead to you feeling weaker, uncoordinated, slower, not having much force or anything in your workouts. And this is when your central nervous system is being overtrained. The thing with this is that it can also be impacted by outside forces. So stress at your job, your family, and things like that, not getting enough sleep, that can lead to central nervous system fatigue as well. So what you really need to do is make sure you're taking these rest days out of the gym, make sure that you are getting enough sleep, that you're doing some sort of stress reliever. If your life is becoming really hectic and stressful, make sure you're meditating or taking time for yourself each day, just some deep breaths, whatever it is. Make sure you're doing this to give yourself a little break. Delegate things that you don't need to be doing in your life. Ask for help, relieve some stress that way. And also just eating right. Eating right's going to fuel your body properly, to keep your health up, and to keep everything running right. So these are the importance of a rest day. They're super, super, super necessary for you and your training system. And that is why we're taking one today. So I also wanted to go over today, though, stretching, since stretching is super important. And on your rest days, you don't necessarily, I wouldn't promote, sitting on the couch and Netflixing all day. But I would say that, you're not going to the gym and crushing out your normal workout. You can go for a walk, though. You could just do something super light and then do some stretches. You could do a nice, easy yoga flow, something that's still active and keeps your body moving, but it's still allowing it, to repair and to sort of take a little break. So today I wanted to cover some stretches for you, because there are many benefits to stretching, and it can increase your range of motion, which is allowing you to move more freely and efficiently, throughout all your everyday activities, preventing injury because you're too tight or something. It can be relaxing and a stress reliever, which is what you need on these off days. It can also provide balance in your body. So muscle tightness in certain areas and shortness of muscles can cause those muscular imbalances in your body, which can lead to injury for sure. And can lead to also other problems like joint pain and stuff, because your body might be thrown off from this muscular imbalance, and so things aren't hinging or rubbing right, and joints can cause all types of problems that way. So stretching is important. It's something that you could just put in at the end of your workout or on your rest day if you do a proper warm-up. So let's jump into sort of tips on how to get started, and then I'll show you the video of some stretches. So like I just mentioned, before you stretch, you're doing a 5 to 10 minute warm-up. You are not jumping into stretching cold. This is hard on your muscles, bad for your muscles. It could pull and tear them wrong. And it's doing the opposite of what you wanted to do. So make sure that you're either doing this at the end of your workout where you're already nice and warmed up, or you're doing some sort of 5 to 10 minute, light cardio or something, just to get that temperature rising and, that blood pumping. Then when you're doing a stretch, you're gonna hold it in the position of mid to moderate discomfort. So you're not in all out pain, just, rocking it through this stretch, like screaming your head off because it hurts so bad. You're just pushing so you feel that little bit of tension, and you're sort of just starting to feel that, and then you're gonna hold it there. You're gonna hold each stretch for about 15 to 30 seconds and just try and breathe deeply through it. Remember, make this relaxing, not something stressful and painful. My last tip would be never bounce in your stretch, okay? So, you know, you're not holding out your leg and bouncing around to get further through that stretch. You could pulse lightly, but you cannot bounce. You're gonna pull, you're gonna tear something. It's just gonna be bad. All right, so enough of me talking, guys. Let's get into it. I just have a video of a few of my favorite stretches. My absolute favorite way to stretch, though, is just to do a yoga workout. Some yoga poses, some yoga moves, just to flow through them. I'm not a yoga teacher, so I will not be giving you yoga like teachings, classes, moves to go through and telling you all about that, because that's not what I'm trained in. I can show you just a little bit of what I like to do, but I just have bought my own videos or looked up things on YouTube. There's tons and tons and tons of yoga on there. There's apps that do it. So that is my favorite way to move through and stretch my body out. But I'm just going to show you some of my other favorite stretches, static stretches that I like to move through, and one of them sort of like some of them are actually, I guess, yoga poses and moves, but they kind of intermingle. So let's do this. Let's jump into it. All right, guys, let's jump into it. So I'm just going to go through a few basic ones, a few of my favorite ones, starting sort of from the top down. I'm just starting with a little bit of a neck stretch here. There are so many different stretches out there. I'm really just touching on, you know, a really low amount, but there's definitely a lot more that you can learn and look into if you want to. So just do what feels right for you, and find the ones that you really love yourself. So now I'm moving on to this shoulder sort of arm stretch. I feel this in my triceps as well as my shoulders. This is a good one if we're working upper body or wanting to increase flexibility in your upper body. So doing that on each side, just holding the arm, not pushing on my elbow, but sort of just in front of it and pulling it slightly towards myself till I feel that stretch. Then moving on to this sort of tricep and side stretch. It also can stretch out your back as well as those little muscles along the sides. You know, when people get really big muscles, they look like they're ribs, but it's really those muscles right sort of under their armpit there. Stretches those out as well. So doing that on each side, and then we're moving on to this one. I actually do flat against a wall, but I didn't have a wall where I thought you guys could see me. So I would normally put my arms straight in line with my shoulder, my wrist straight in line with the shoulder, and then put it flat against the wall and then turn away from that hand, and you're going to feel that in the bicep and in the arm. So I like to do that after arm day as well and sort of promote the recovery in that area. So doing that on each side. Again, you're holding these for 15 to 30 seconds if you're doing it yourself. I kind of went through these a little faster just to get through them all, and so you're not, you know, watching me just stand around stretching forever. Right now I'm linking the hands and exhaling, just gently pulling forward till I feel that stretch in the upper back, a little bit in the neck. Again, go gentle, don't hurt yourself. And you can do it the opposite way. You should feel that in your chest. You should feel that open up. And again, just so that you are feeling that slight tension but not hurting yourself. Then onto the quad stretch. You can also do these lying down on your side. I actually like doing them better that way. I kind of wish I would have shown you that way. Just laying on your side, and then the top leg is the one that you would stretch back behind you. Same idea as standing. It's just done horizontally. So now I'm sort of moving on to what I do. It's kind of yoga based. So I like to touch my toes. I'm going to go into a little more detail on bending over towards touching your toes. It can be a dangerous stretch if you are trying to hinge right over. Can really put a lot of stress on that lower back. So I'm going to cover a little bit more on that later. But try and keep your back flat, and you'll feel it in your hamstrings and your calves a lot. And then I also kind of go into this downward dog position and then just bend my knees, alternating back and forth. And this stretches my hamstrings and calves out so much. I feel it in there like crazy. So I like to do that back and forth, just gently. So it's more of a dynamic stretch because you're sort of moving through it. Again, no bouncing into it too hard or anything. You're just gently moving through it and feeling that stretch. And then I'm going to step it into this sort of runner's lunge type position. So I just step the foot up forward, and then you can go down on your knee. You could keep your toes on the ground and keep your knee up if you prefer, but this is really going to stretch out the hips. A lot of these lower body moves are going to be great for the people that sit at their job a lot during the day, because you're going to have tight hips, tight lower back, hamstrings. All that really needs to be stretched out often, or you can get those muscle imbalances and that shortness in the muscles, which can cause a lot of problems. So moves like this are going to help loosen and stretch those areas out. So I do that lunge on each side, and then I'm going to come down onto seated on the mat and do a groin stretch. This is actually going to stretch out the inner thighs, hamstrings, the glutes, a lot of stuff, the lower back. But again, you're keeping that back flat. You're not rounding it so that you can, sort of like stretch and roll right over, because that's going to pull on the back. You're keeping it straight up and just gently leaning forward. You can push on the knees a little with your elbows if you want to deepen the stretch and if it feels okay, but just holding that for a little bit will do a lot of stretching for your lower body. So then we're moving on to a stretch that I was sort of mentioning before, and these are the kind that you want to keep that back straight. These sort of like hurdler stretches and like seated touching the toes. Please, please, please keep that back straight and just hinge forward at the hips instead of rounding the back and leaning all the way. If I round my back, I can reach my toes and put my hands right around my foot, but it's not about how far you can go. It's about correctly doing this so you're not hurting yourself, and that's really going to pull on your lower back if you're doing this wrong. So keep that back straight. Just hinge forward a little. You'll feel it so much in those hamstrings and calves. Just go as far as you can. It feels comfortable. And just make sure you're doing it properly so you avoid injury. So then I do sort of the same thing, spreading the legs and just going from side to center and over to side and just stretching everything out that way. I can really feel it in the inner thighs here as well as in the hamstrings and everything again. All right, so holding that for a little bit and then moving on to our next stretch, which is really going to stretch out the glutes. I like to call this a butt stretch because that's always where I feel it, but it's also good for your spine, so if you're doing it correctly. So you bend and cross the one leg over top of the other, and then you're going to twist in the direction of the leg that went over top. So make sure this is really gentle. I push on my knee a little bit to bring it forward or bring it the opposite way so I can feel that stretch in my bum, but I also keep my back up straight. I keep that spine. I imagine that my head is just lifting towards the sky, and I keep that back straight while gently turning. So don't hurt your spine in any way, but turn as much as is comfortable for you. And then on to my last move. I like to do this at the end just to release the lower back. And so lying down, bringing those knees in, exhaling, just sort of letting the core and everything loose and bringing those knees to that chest and just letting that lower back sort of release after everything that you've done and all the stretching that you did or the workouts you did that day. So those are a few of the favorite moves, but there's so many out there, guys. So definitely find what you like and what works for you and get stretching.